Welcome to the March edition of the National Center webinars. My name is Katie Mencarini, and I'll be your facilitator. Before we get started, I missed one critical moment. Today's webinar has been made possible by funding provided by the Federal Highway Administration. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity today. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items to go over. It helps us get some of those latecomers in on time. So with the exception of our speakers, all of you are muted on the phones. This helps reduce interruptions, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. Please use the chat in your GoToWebinar dashboard. For me, it's on the right of my screen. We will have time for questions and discussion with presenters at the end of the presentation portion. By submitting your questions in the chat, I'll take them down, and then I'll be asking the presenters for as many as we have time for. If you have questions about other Safe Routes to School topics that are not related to today's webinar, please use the Ask a Question tool on the National Center's website. Details about getting to that page are on this slide, and they're also in the reminder emails that were sent to you today and yesterday. If you're having any technical difficulties, feel free to email me at kmencarini@tooldesign.com. I've got my email over here to the side ready to help you out. And if for some reason you're not able to sit through the whole webinar or you want to refer this to a friend, please know that our webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded at this web address. With that, we're ready to get started with today's webinar. Today's webinar is Handing Over the Keys, Building Leadership and Excitement for Walking and Bicycling Among High School Students. All of our presenters are here today to talk about getting these young adults involved in your local Safe Routes to School efforts. First, we'll hear from Kim Wiley-Schwartz, Assistant Commissioner for Education and Outreach for the New York Department of Transportation. Since 2010, she's been with the DOT, and she's led successful projects that empower teens to redesign local walking and biking routes in Brooklyn and the Bronx. And before that, she was the Education Director for Livable Streets, where she developed unique curriculum and programming to help students and teachers make more livable communities. So with all that experience, she's going to cover the benefits of engaging high school students in walking and biking and talk us through a couple of her successful projects. So then Kim will turn it over to Sandy Spavoni, Executive Director of the National Organizations for Youth Safety. Sandy's worked with Youth Peer Education National Programs since 1997. These programs provide youth tools to take concern and turn that into action. Today she'll be talking about the Teen Roadway Safety Advocates Program and how teens have a keen eye for approaching traffic challenges. She also has some good do's and don'ts that I would definitely stay attuned to for working with this age group, and I think you wouldn't want to miss them. And after that, we'll open the floor for questions. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Kim. All right, Kim, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very excited to get an opportunity to give this presentation talking about how we visualize working with teens in New York City. As I was introduced, I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Education and Outreach here in New York City. I have a staff of about 30 people who do outreach with one really talented safety educator who works primarily with high school students, whose name is Michelle Kosick. Today I'd like to give you guys just an overview of a project that we did where we included teens sort of in a community-based project, which was a large-scale Safe Routes to School redesign program. And I would like to get a chance to go through that now. So let's get started. Let me see if I can move there we go. Okay, so about 2 years ago, we decided to start working on a corridor in Brooklyn, the 4th Avenue corridor. There are lots and lots of pedestrians along this corridor, as is true really all over New York City. And in this particular case, you know, we had a high incidence of, you know, pedestrian crashes, high incidences of speeding, especially you know, in the off hours, which is in the afternoon when kids were leaving schools, and we had a lot of crashes occurring involving teens. So we really felt that we needed to get involved in this and look at this as sort of a comprehensive Safe Routes to School program. And And really, along the 4th Avenue corridor, we had a 93rd percentile in speeding. The speed limit in New York City is 30 miles an hour unless you are on an otherwise marked arterial. And in this case, we had people going 45, 50 miles an hour just at all times of the day. And in New York City, speeding in 2012 contributed to 30% of our deadly crashes. And I have here our speeding campaign. We call it That's Why It's 30, where we're trying to educate the public about why it's so important that you drive 30 in throughout all of New York City, which is a residential business district. And for those of you who aren't familiar, these are our numbers that we got off of our crashes. In New York City, when there's a crash involving a car going 30 miles an hour or below, pedestrians have an 80% chance of living, where we see when pedestrians are hit going 40 miles an hour, we have a 70% fatality rate. So we're really getting active and out there. But when we look at street design, we're really trying to control and curb speeding. So along the 4th Avenue corridor from 15th Street to 65th Street, we have 15 schools in total, including parochial schools and the largest Islamic school in the city of New York, 6 senior centers where people, seniors are walking, and 2 multi-service centers. So this is a real hotspot along 4th Avenue. Lots of people are coming, especially in the after-school hours. It's also the largest walk-to-work community in the city, where people live along 4th and 5th Avenues and walk over to the docks. So pedestrians really make up the lion's share. So just so that you guys can get an idea of what 4th Avenue looked like when we started this project, you can see it's a 6-lane, 3 lanes in each direction, arterial, cut in the heart of the city. Very residential. You can see here there's a subway exit and entrance. And you can see in a lot of cases, because we have these turning bays, a pedestrian has only about 18 inches to stand on if she should get caught, and unable to cross both sides. You can see here again the same situation, this tiny little place to stand as a pedestrian. Or here, although we have a little bit more room, we have this subway, sorry, I went ahead. We have this subway here that makes it impossible for us to do a lot of other treatments we might put in there, because we need to keep the grates open so that people can, see, so that people can see in, MTA can get access. So we really can't do anything with that. So we wanted to ask how teens could visualize the change they'd like to see and communicate this perspective on this street, this stretch of 4th Avenue. So one of the things that we like to do at Safety Education is find a working center or working group of people who are already working really successfully with teens and are already using their time with teens in a valuable educational manner, and they are really treating teens as advocates for their community. And Center for Family Life in Sunset Park is one of these places. It's a multi-service center, so that means that kids are getting counseling, their parents are getting counseling. They are the people who are giving the who are keeping the senior centers alive, and they even started their own high school. So this is we worked with them with their high school students to get an idea of what these teens see. So we do something called Teen Photo Voice, where we're allowing the kids to see, and record with their own eyes the problems and the perceptions of traffic-related dangers in their neighborhood. And as you can see here, we do many things with them. But our favorite thing to do is to get the kids out with a speed device. In this case, this is just a baseball speed gun, but it works really well. And trying to get an idea of how quickly people are driving, in this case, up and down 4th Avenue, and, really make a case for curbing speed. So as you can see here, this student, this teenager, she's recording a 49-mile-an-hour speed in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. So that's kind of a problem. So we asked them to take a base photo to work off of on 4th Avenue so that they could lay all of their thoughts and ideas out really before we got started in what was possible from an engineering perspective. So this is at the corner of 4th Avenue and 35th Street, which is very close to where the high school, where they go to school is. And we asked them to we taught them about traffic ideas, everything from traffic calming to, engineering, things that you could do with signals, things that you could do all the way around. And they laid their ideas down on top with a piece of tracing paper. So you can see here, for example, the youth know that if you put a bike lane, it creates a 40% reduction in crashes for all users. So they're thinking, how can we make bigger sidewalks? How can we use bike lanes as traffic calming measures? How can we make better entrances and exits to the subway station? Or here, this is a pedestrian walking bridge, so they're, and trying to think of ways to curb speeding. So here we have a call for red light or speed cameras. And here, beautification ideas that, if the street is a nicer place to walk, if the street is a better place to walk, then more people will be out on the street, which will help to calm traffic. So here is the final result of their work. This is a photo sim that was put together by one of our great graphic artists, Carly Clark here. And you can see it's, well, we didn't put in the pedestrian bridge because we actually don't build pedestrian bridges inside the grid in New York, but we tried to actually put things in the traffic environment that we could do for the youth. So you can see changes in beautification, the use of a bike lane for traffic calming, better marked crosswalks, and things like that. And so the youth were asked to present these ideas. They presented them, in a community setting, and then also to our engineers. So after this time, after the youth got involved and really said what they were looking for, our traffic engineers thought about, what are the possibilities? And this is one of these projects that we do, which is, I think, our signature trademark here now in New York City. We use paint and planters or bollards to quickly make changes. So the idea would be, and this is a photo simulation, taking the youth idea that we could create more space for pedestrians to stand. As you can see here, we've gotten rid of the left turn bay and also reduced one lane of traffic so that, this creates an automatic traffic calming without congestion and gives, gives a hierarchical visual aid. Pedestrians are important here. And you can see the same thing here by organizing this this left-hand turn bay and giving the pedestrian more space, using flexible bollards to really delineate the space, or even here with our pesky MTA grate system, we can still build out with planters and paint. And even here, as you can see, consider this idea that you could take away one of the cross streets and create a public space, a place for youth to sit or anyone to sit, as they travel. So that, that really got our ideas flowing, and our engineers brought that to the community board, and people started thinking, wow, this really could be a 2-lane street instead of a 3-lane street. We could really, around the 15 schools, make things much safer. So we teamed up with the Uprose Center for Environmental Justice. For those of you who don't know this is run by Elizabeth Yeampierre. She's a rock star in the environmental or EJ world, and she uses and works with youth beautifully. She, they are peer-to-peer educators around issues of environmental justice, and this is a big deal for her, that we could actually change 4th Avenue. So over the summer, while kids were out of school and before we were able to make any street-level changes, the kids worked with us and a mural group called Groundswell Mural, fantastic youth educators, to create and put teen visions out into the community for what the street could be like. These youth came to us through Uprose, the Uprose Center, through Groundswell Mural, and they actually work. It's a job. It's using our summer youth employment program where they get a small stipend to compensate them for their work. And this is a long, hard process. It's a 6 to 7 week process where the kids study and then draw and then implement the mural in the public space. So here you can see, our safety educator getting ideas from the kids about like how they would want their streets to be. So this is a exercise we use to kind of get the brain going, where they are redesigning and rethinking what a street should look like, especially for pedestrians. And again, you can see we take the speed gun out, so we get a real idea of what are the dangers in the neighborhood. Then the kids are studied, everything that we know about total injuries, fatalities, about crashes, specifically in Sunset Park, who is affected, how it works, and really got an idea of, why 30 miles an hour matters. But they learned all of the facts so that they could use that in communicating to the driving community, the walking community, the biking community. And here you can see they started to put their ideas out on paper. You can see this interstate symbol. This is about a block and a half from what we call the Gowanus or the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway. And so you can see peeling back the layers of this expressway and imagining a different situation. And all along, you can see here, these are all youth. These are depictions of youth crafting and creating a new environment. And here are just some great pictures of the gang and the team. And, they scaffolded it and they painted it. So this really was a major undertaking, totally youth-driven. Just this one artist, Crystal, who's a remarkable young artist who was able to really make this speak for the youth and help them paint what they had in their minds. Here is the completed mural. It's hard to get a perfect shot of this, so bear with me, because from the street, this is on the side of a supermarket, and over here is the supermarket window, and through you can see this idea of plants springing out of asphalt and redesigning the street, making a healthier, safer environment. Here's a kind of a longer view of it, and you can see we do everything from our typical safety messaging for all users, like be aware, but really what I think is the most intriguing here is all of these kids. And I know they don't like to be called kids, but that's what they are to me. All of the youth, imagining a new street and building it with their hands. So this mural went up in August of 2012, right before the community board had signed off on all of these ideas and could make them a reality. And now I just wanted you guys to get a chance to see what is there now. So everything was painted, and we used this gravel, this truffle paint and gravel treatment and flexible delineators to make better spaces. So here we are. You can see the before shot. This man here standing in the middle. This is people trying to make this turn. Here we have the turn. All the left turns along the corridor are pretty much banned unless they're very important to turning traffic. And you can see here a safer spot. Or here, where before we had places, and you can see this is in a school zone. I'm showing you this is how we mark our school. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to that one more time. This is how we mark our school zone. So this is, you would have to kind of stand in the middle of traffic waiting to cross. But here, there's enough room for a pedestrian to stand safely, and as you can see, we've moved down to just 2 moving lanes of traffic here, cutting through the heart of Sunset Park and 4th Avenue. So in conclusion, I just want to say, this is, it really matters. I mean, getting youth involved especially in corridors where their schools are, where they walk. I mean, these are community members. And when we go community member to community member, and when young people can really stand up for safer streets and for healthier streets and for more beautiful streets, I mean, it really makes an impact. And we found that working closely with the community board here, and really being able to share ideas that didn't just come from engineers, but also came from young people who were navigating the streets alone without parents, who were, had a stake in their safety, had a stake in the health of the environment, really, really made a huge impact in in this undertaking, and now we've done the entire corridor from 15th Street to 65th Street, and now we are trying to make improvements on the bottom half, which goes all the way to 92nd Street, and on the upper half, which goes from 15th Street all the way into the heart of downtown Brooklyn, where our new arena, the Barclays Center, is placed. So we are continuing to work with youth. We were lucky to have amazing team partners in UPRO's Environmental Justice Center and the Center for Family Life. And whenever you can find someone who's effectively working with youth but isn't able to communicate these ideas around safe routes to school and traffic ideas, being able to partner can really, really make it work and give you an opportunity to incorporate youth voice in a meaningful and powerful way. Thank you very much. And I'm going to pass this over now to Sandy, who will pick up and really talk about the nuts and bolts of working with youth.
Hi, everyone. This is Sandy Spavoni, and I'm very honored to be with you today and have the opportunity to talk with you and explore including youth and handing over the keys to include teens in your Safe Routes to School programs. It's great to hear what Tim and many of you are doing to include youth in your work. That's really the foundation of what NOYS is all about. For those who aren't familiar with NOYS, we are a coalition of national organizations, business and industry leaders, and then federal agencies that focus on youth health and safety. And we focus on several different youth health and safety issues, but we were actually started by the Department of Transportation. And as you know, traffic crashes are the leading cause of death for teens in the United States. So still much of our work really focuses on this particular issue. So we're very excited about the work that you are doing and are interested in helping you in any way that we possibly can to support your efforts to include teens. This first slide that I have here is kind of begins the conversation that I'd like to have today is why include teens, the benefits, and understanding the perspective of ways to look at including teens and making sure that we're honoring their interests and really taking them to a leadership scale that can help them be the best that they can be and really get involved with this. So some of the words here that's on this first puzzle are really important to us is that the number one thing is that we provide support for them, we value our youth, and all of this working together, I think you'll definitely see that youth will be loyal to you if they really feel that you care about them and take a keen interest in what they want to do. So as a foundation and at the major puzzle piece for NOYS is really engaging and empowering youth. The mission of our organization is built upon that. We really emphasize building partnerships with others to help youth. Our main foundational belief is that if it's about youth, it should be done with youth, not to or at youth. So in our work, it's really important for us to take a look back and make sure that we're following that and that we're using that as our guidance and including youth in what we do. And I know that many of you already do this as well as what NOYS and our member organizations do, but I think it's always a good opportunity to be reflective in how we're looking at working with youth. And so when we look at this, one of the most important things that we want to do is that we want everyone to include youth as part of their roadway safety efforts. If you're including youth and that's part of what you're doing like Tim did, we really want to make noise about that. We want to highlight what you're doing and help you get the word out and set the examples for others. One of the underlying little ways that we are very much interested in working with youth is we know that they will be replacing us. They are going to be in our shoes holding these webinars down the road. And we work with really great youth, amazing youth that do fantastic things and really function as great leaders in their communities and in their organizations. And so our goal is to interest them in roadway safety. We encourage them that if they're interested in PR, if they're interested in lobbying, whatever their interest is, if there's really a place for them on the roadway safety effort and to use their gifts and their talents to really get involved with that. So before I give, yes?
Sorry, Katie. We can't see all the text on your slide. Do you mind just shrinking your view a little bit? Maybe it's just not It's oversized. We can't see everything. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. Because it worked fine in the dry run.
It did, and I'm actually on the same computer, but as all things go, sometimes you get kinks in that. So I may have to function just in this mode, unless you want to show it on yours instead of using mine.
Do you think it's maybe in, when you look at Show My Screen from GoToWebinar, it might be showing just part of your screen and not everything? I just don't want to miss any of the good stuff on your slide. Sorry, everyone. I'm just going to take one quick moment.
I don't see where it gives you an option to make it one size or another.
Well, you know what's funny is if you move your PowerPoint window up to the left of your screen, I think I might be able to see a little more. There we go. And then, so I'm seeing probably about all the way up to engaged in the last bullet. So maybe if we just shrink the zoom. Or actually, you know what, Sandy? I am going to open your presentation. Did you change anything?
Just where the video is, but that's okay.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open it on mine,
Okay.
and I am going to give you the control.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry, everybody.
That's okay. I have one other idea here, too.
Actually, you know what? Oh, no, it's going to show my. I'm going to change me as the presenter. All right.
Okay.
So I've given you the keyboard and mouse so you can advance the slides.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. We did practice this before and it worked, but I'm sure it's my fault. I've practiced it in one state, now I'm in another state, and neither were my home states, so I apologize for that. But this is the definitions that have been out there to talk about youth participation, and that's really what we're focusing on is not just engaging youth, but really getting them to participate and to be a key partner with this. So when we looked at this, one of the first things we found was the National Commission on Resources for Youth came up with a great youth participation definition back in 1975. And so in looking at that, we see that one of the key things that really popped out to us was making sure that we're involving youth in responsible and challenging actions. And so in looking at that, we really want to focus on making sure that we're engaging the youth in activities that really can help them grow, but also involve them in the process. And then in 1995, the Canadians defined it for us as far as meaningful youth participation. And I heard Kim say that, which is really important for all of us to just be reflective of and understand is that it's important that the youth are involved in a way that is meaningful, that nurtures their interest, and again, builds them into the point where they will someday be taking our place and leading these efforts for us. And then, of course, because we work with youth, we have to include a Wikipedia definition because that is our new dictionary. And youth participation is active engagement in young people throughout their communities. If you go on down to the bottom part of this, this is something that we found really positive and interesting that this was included in the Wikipedia definition, is that it includes decision making. It can be in sports or any other activities where young people are not historically engaged. And I think all of you can say that historically, youth has not been as engaged in the roadway safety effort, especially teens, as much as we're seeing now. So that's very exciting that we're opening up this new door for them and encouraging everyone to include them in that. I think you have to advance the slide for me because it's not allowing me to. So this is a scale that has been developed. It's called the Hearts Ladder Scale, and I'm not going to go through all this with you, but I wanted to include it in the PowerPoint that will be recorded and you'll be able to access later. You can actually Google the Hearts Ladder if you like and look at this, but it's important for us to just include this as part of the review on this, because when we look at working with youth, we really want to make sure that we're flowing in a way that really engages youth at the highest level possible, but we also want to be making sure that we are ready for where we want to have them and doing this in the most effective way. So this will be something that I hope that you take some time and look at later as you have some extra time. The next slide. And you can hit it. There you go. So thank you. Perfect. So this is part of the Hearts Ladder, but in bigger font for you so you can read it a little bit better. But when NOYS looks at this, we really look carefully at making sure that young people and adults share decision making, letting young people have the ideas and setting up their projects, inviting adults to join them in the making decision process throughout the project, and understanding that they really want to be equal partners in this. And that would be the top scale. And sometimes it takes us some time to work up to that. It takes some time to learn the flow of what works and what doesn't work with the teams that you're working with, and also for the personality of the adults involved in the process. But that would be really a great place to land as you work yourself through the process. Then the next part of the ladder is something about an important piece for us to all consider is that young people lead and initiate action. And I think what Kim was really good in showing is that they really were good at hearing the teams and letting the teams initiate some ideas of how things might be better for them. And so in working through that, it also reminds us that adults should be available to trust the leadership of the young people, to engage them in that. So as NOYS goes through our different projects, we really look at this and trying to make sure that we're understanding that although sometimes what the youth may suggest doesn't seem something that's workable and something that might be effective, it's working through that process with them and really engaging them with their initial ideas to work through it to where we have an agreement of something that is manageable and something that's doable. And then the next one down is an adult initiated. And that's where we as adults, we have a plan or a project, and we bring the project up to the youth, and then we ask them to get involved and help us in furthering and implementing the project. And this is where NOYS really gets the most questions from outside organizations and member organizations, is that it's very difficult after you've initiated and you've developed your project to then take it to youth, because it's just, as an adult, doesn't feel engaged at that point. It would be the same thing for our youth. So we struggle with this piece sometimes, in that we think our project's really great, but we can't get them to buy in. And sometimes the buy-in isn't there because they don't feel that they're part of it. So we really encourage groups to look at this as a skeleton, that when it's presented to the youth, that the adult initiation is a skeleton that can be built upon by the youth, that everything's not so laid out and not so foundationally done that you're just asking you to go do the piece for you, but it's really at that skeleton stage still. And then the next ladder down here would be that young people are consulted and informed. And this is better than the last one, but again, it's just using youth more as a focus group about the issues, and designing and facilitating their opinions, and letting them have some weight in that. But it's not as high as the other ones, and the youth probably won't buy into it as well as they would in the other scales. And then, of course, this bottom one is that young people are assigned and informed. And again, this is where adults decide on the project and young people volunteer to host that. So if you go to the next slide for me. And just click through all of this. So when you look at that Hearts scale, these are the 3 areas that we worry most about landing. And sometimes we see this, so I want to just quickly go through this and ask us all to be reflective of how we are engaging youth, and think about, do we sometimes do this? And those would be tokenism, decoration, and manipulation. And these are the three bottom areas that if it's really in this level, it's probably better just to do the project on your own. And this is where sometimes we see youth as photo ops is the best way to describe it. So they're taken to an event, they have a very limited capacity, they're told what to say, they don't get to really make decisions about that. They may get to introduce the speaker and pose for a picture. So we just want to stay away from this as much as possible so that the youth really understand that they have a say and that they're involved with it. So if you go to the next slide, this is another great resource that Noise uses, and it's the Shears Pathway to Participation. And if you see all the little ladders there, you can look at it like a game board where it says start here. And I wanted to share this with you, and I'm not going to go through the whole piece, but I want you to understand that if you're not already involving youth, then you definitely need to start at that place that says start here. Figure out where you want to go with this, and then you work your way all the way up to the top. We don't expect you to go from zero to hero in 2 days, but over the process of your project, we would hope that you would follow this path and be aware of some of the pitfalls and the questions that are asked here. And this was developed as a tool and a resource to help take us to true participation. So if you go to the next slide for me, this is a list of do's and don'ts that were created by youth. And so we went to our teams and we tell them, you know, we get asked by several groups to talk to them about engaging and empowering youth and getting youth involved in their projects. And we said, can you just give us some of the quick do's and don'ts? If you've ever seen the fun teen magazines where they have the do's and the don'ts of fashion, these would be the do's and the don'ts of working with teams. So we wanted to share those with you on this webinar and hopefully let them be a good resource for us all and a reminder. So starting with the don'ts, one of the first things that they ask us is to not treat them like children. Our age range that we work with teens are middle school to college. So we don't really work with the young elementary children except for the middle school, high school peer education down to the elementary. So they really want to be treated like a responsible person who can get things done. They don't want us to assume that they can't make good decisions because of their age. They're very smart, and when you allow them to really let them do what they do best, and that would be a team and have the ideas of a team, they really will surprise you, and they'll make some great decisions. They are human, just as adults are human, and they do make mistakes, but they want us to at least not assume that they can't make good decisions. The next one is that they ask us not to think that they can't contribute to their community because they don't have as much experience as us. I think as we heard that from them, that was something that we wanted to make sure that in the community of Noise and our members, that we really look at ourselves as a community, and just because they haven't been leading a nonprofit or something to that scale, that they do want to contribute and they want to be part of it. They ask us not to determine our opinion of them by their hairstyle or the clothes that they wear. And I think that that is really important for us all, is to step back and remember that, you know, some of the youth that will do the greatest work for us and that will really get engaged are the youth who are looking for a place. And sometimes you don't go to the youth who may look a little different or wear some type of a style that you might feel is real edgy because you think, oh, they would never be interested in this. But what they have the real keen ability to do is to reach their peers. And so we encourage even our youth leaders to make sure that they include all of the peer groups in their schools. So make sure you have the chess club all the way to the football team, all the way to the skaters represented in your organization, and not to automatically determine that somebody might be interested just because of the way that they appear to look. They don't want us to single out teams who belong to minority groups, which we found this to be very interesting. But a good reminder is that they don't want to be chosen for an opportunity because they're a certain ethnic or socioeconomic quota, that they really want to be part of the organization because of who they are and what they do. I like the next one. It says, don't try to cover for us when we mess up. I found that very interesting, and as adults, being a caring adult, sometimes we want to try and make things right for them. But it's really an opportunity for them to grow and to really address something when something does go wrong and work through that process. They don't want to be separated into groups, adults versus teens. They like to work directly with us. This is really important, too. They don't want us to take over their projects. And I had an advisor give me an analogy one time that I thought was the best analogy that I've ever heard. Really put this clearly, and I see this all the time. As we're working with the youth, it's very important for us to inform the youth, give them clear understanding of what they're doing, what the project is, and then let them implement it and let them take over the project. And the analogy that was given was a basketball coach. So if you think about a basketball coach, the basketball coach talks to the team, and they talk through the plays, and they talk about what other teams have done to be successful in their plays, and they go through the process, and they work through how to best play the game. But when the game comes and when it's time for the project to be implemented, you never see a basketball coach go out into the middle of the court and start playing with the team. They allow the teams to really take it over and let the teams play ball. And that's what we saw with the youth, is what you let them take it over. Does it always work as effectively and as smoothly as maybe if you were in there doing everything for them? No. Does it sometimes take more time because they sometimes like to take their time about getting back and getting things done? Probably, yes. But is it rewarding when it's theirs and they own it? Absolutely. And they've learned, and I've also learned through letting them do that too. And the next one is don't tell us it can't be done. I call this the water gun. Have you ever been in a meeting and you're sitting in a round table and somebody brings up an idea and 5 people have been like, oh, we did that. Oh, that didn't work last time we did that. And we hear that done to youth a lot because they are new to this and they do want to bring their ideas to the table. So we try and take our own steps back and say, okay, yeah, you're right. It didn't work the last time that we tried that. But here's why it didn't work. And what if we tried it this way with your idea to try and make it work? So listening to their ideas and not just assuming that because in the past it couldn't be done, that today it couldn't be done. They don't want us to tell us what their goals are. They like to set their own goals. They don't want us to protect them. They want themselves to be held accountable. Again, don't do it for us. I hear that again as kind of you go up over in the take over our projects piece. And then this last one is that they told us that they don't like to be referred to as children, youngsters, or kids, which we think is very interesting because they will call each other kids. They would never call each other children or youngsters. But they will call each other kids, but they don't want us to. And so going to the do's of what they do like us to do is they do want us to talk to them like adults. They do want us to remember that if they are part of the problem, they want to be part of the solution. I like to use the analogy here that if we were going to be hosting a meeting about adults driving and adults texting and adults doing the wrong thing behind the wheel, and we had the whole audience full of teens talking about what adults were doing wrong behind the wheel, we would think something's wrong with that. But yet we'll hold meetings that's talking all about youth behavior and youth issues without youth in the audience and without youth being part of that. So it's really important that if they are part of the problem and what we're talking about with youth health and safety and the focus that we do, they are. Getting them to make the right decisions and do the right thing is part of the work that we do. So remembering to include them as part of the solution. And then they want us also to ask what they think. Only youth know what other youth want and need, and you'll be very surprised what they will tell you, and using them to get guidance and feedback on what they would like to do, just like Kim showcased with what they did there in New York City, giving them a chance to be visual about what they might see as a solution. They want us to listen to their ideas and respect their opinions. They want us to treat them as equals. They want us to be patient and help them learn from their mistakes. Again, just like adults, we need to make mistakes and be able to learn from them. This is a repeat from the other side. They want to be put into groups with adults so that they learn to work together. And we hear that frequently, that it's like the kids' table at Thanksgiving, if you guys remember that. They don't want to be at the kids' table. They want to be at the table with the adults and really working effectively together. And then they do want us to let them take the lead on the project, but be there to support and encourage and guide them. They don't like to be set up for failure by just taking your hands off of it, but guiding them. And as Kim was saying, you find groups that are really effective in peer-to-peer education and using that, and that's very helpful. They do want us to offer our insights and suggestions and working with them through their ideas and hold them accountable to their commitments. If they're late, don't do it for them. Get back with them and make sure you follow up. I would say here to just as a reminder that in this generation of teens, and you're working with teens, teens rarely check their email. They feel that most email is junk email. We have to remember that they're not at work and they're not functioning on a work environment, so they don't follow their email. They prefer, if you text to youth, you're going to hear back pretty quickly. You can Facebook message a youth, although we see the teens really moving away from Facebook. But if you're trying to work with youth, one of the best communication routes to them is their mobile phone with texting to them. They want us to be honest with our opinions, and it's okay for us to disagree. Just don't shoot them down with everything, but talk through the disagreement that you may have with them. And again, give them the tools that they need to be successful. And that's what they do like to be called. They like to be called youth, young people, young adults, or teens. And the quote that I have down there was from a youth that they had shared with us that the advisor was exceptional and has turned my life around. And we hear this so many times from the youth where they said, you know, working on something, on a project or contest or whatever it is that you have, it really gives them an opportunity to make positive changes and be part of a positive action. And so many times youth have said to us over and over again that they were kind of making the wrong decisions and heading down the wrong path, and getting involved really made a difference in their lives. So I promise you that all of the work, extra work that it takes to involve teens in our efforts is definitely worth the rewards, and I know many of you know that. So this is our mantra that Noise has, that the youth gave us, is don't do anything about us without us. We believe that it's time to make sure that they're a very important piece of the puzzle and that they're central to our success. So now I want to share with you a project that Noise has launched that I think Safe Routes to School and many of you can get involved with and help us with. And that is our Teen RSA program. And Teen RSA stands for Teen Roadway Safety Advocates. Many of you may be familiar with roadway safety assessments or roadway safety audits. And what we do is similar to that, but it doesn't meet the engineering qualifications to be called an assessment or an audit. So we've titled this carefully as Teen Roadway Safety Advocates. And that's really the goal with this program, is to lead teens into being aware of their roads around their community, and also being an advocate for change, providing a fresh set of eyes to the engineers and the transit groups to understand that this is how teens, novice drivers, young people biking and walking to school see their routes to school, and also the roads around them. So if you go to the next slide. When we looked at this program, it's very interesting because this is the world you guys live in. But if you understand with the teen drivers and the work that mostly has been done with young people and young drivers is looking at their behavior. Most of them it's telling them don't text, don't speed, don't have too many passengers, wear your seatbelt. And it really is focused on their behavior, which is very important. As you guys all know, with the rates of fatalities, and now we're seeing them go back up in the United States, we have a lot of work to do to keep our young people safe on the road. We also look at the vehicle and making sure that we encourage parents to buy the safest vehicle for their teen, and that their vehicle is in good repair and has good tires, good brakes, and it's safe to be on the roadway. But that final piece about the roadway is very rarely included in driver education, in peer-to-peer youth education, and so we saw that this was an opportunity to take youth out and really help them become part of the solution with the roadway infrastructure issue. And we're very excited to develop this program. And the first time that we hosted this was in Tampa, Florida. And we went to a school in Tampa, Florida, where a young lady was killed walking to school. She was just trying to cross the street to go. We had the Florida Department of Transportation very much involved. They were a great partner with us, the school was very much in partnership with us, and the press covered this like it was the best news story of the day. And I think that that's something to always think about, is that we do this work all the time, but the youth don't necessarily have the opportunity to give a voice and their voice to what the roadway looks like. And the media was very interested in hearing that, because the stories of the team crashes and all of that sometimes is stale to the press. Unless there's a big amount of crashes on one particular weekend or something like that, it's hard to get the press to cover it. But at every single pilot that was done, not just the school with a fatality, the press have been all over this and have been very interested in covering the story. So we've hosted pilots in Tampa, Florida, Orlando, Florida, Washington, D.C., and La Mesa, California. If you'll go to the next slide, this pilot that you're seeing here was in Tampa. And these youth wanted to go out and they wanted to look at the roadway and give the Florida Department of Transportation and AXA and NOYS some feedback on what they saw and what might be changed so that another fatality doesn't happen again. So we work with the youth. As many of you may know Joe Toole there in that picture. He was retired from Federal Highways, but he did an information session with them. And then we had everybody put on the orange vest for safety and talked about how to be safe out there. And then we went out to look at the roads. And we went to two intersections. We went to the intersection that had the fatality, and then we went to the intersection where the students should have walked. So if you'll go to the next slide for me, you'll see here that this is one of the intersections. And this is not a foreign country. These are the roads that we are asking our teams in this area to cross to get to school. They have, if you see that highway there, you can see how busy this was. So it was a very bad situation in that the young lady lived in apartments across the street. She was walking to school. The time had changed, so it was dark now when she was walking to school. She was wearing dark clothing, and she jaywalked. If she would have gone down to where she was supposed to cross, she would have had to walk 2.5, about 3 blocks further down to go in the proper intersection. And instead, there's a cut-through with railroad tracks that she was going to take to get to school. So in looking at this particular area, the socioeconomic issues that these children face was really hard to understand. They did not feel that anybody cared about their situation, that nothing could be done. So they were excited to learn about this and to have a voice. So go to the next slide. I'll show you what they found. And this was something that's interesting. I just want to bring up is that we had a couple of facilitators that led the look at these roads. And some people are gifted at working with teams, and other people really have a hard time at pointing it out to teams. So, you know, really encourage you to understand that what I'm about to show you was what with the group where the adults stepped back and let the youth tell them what they saw at this road. So we saw here the first thing, and you'll have to kind of click as we go here because this is a transitional slide, is the right-of-way limits. So the right-of-way limits that you have here, these youth were crossing the street and then they had to keep walking down that road to get to their school, and there was a bad drop-off there. We also see that these cars are traveling 55 miles an hour just 3 feet from the sidewalk that the youth were taking to the school. You can see here that the youth pointed out to us that the cars took a right on red without stopping. So even they, when they were a pedestrian and they had the right-of-way to walk, the cars weren't paying attention to them. And it was interesting. Here we are out there in our orange vest. We have media cameras following us. So it's a pretty big, you know, like, hey, what's going on? Maybe I should slow down. And these cars still were taking a right without stopping, not paying any attention to a group of people in orange vests out there. The students also pointed out the utility poles in the sidewalk and how that was an issue for disabled people trying to use the road. And we actually saw some people in wheelchairs trying to get around this and cross the street. So if you go to the next one, the pedestrian buttons were actually torn off. And the youth told us that this had been like this for a while. And I will tell you that the Florida DOT knew we were coming. And so this wasn't a surprise to them. So we were surprised to find some of this still in much disrepair after a fatality, and knowing that a group from, including people from Federal Highways are going to be there looking at that. So that was an important piece that they pointed out to us because, again, they didn't feel like what was even put there to keep them safe as pedestrians was working effectively. They also pointed out to us the truck tracks across the sidewalk, which I thought was very observant from them. So they were showing us that if they were there, and you're talking about a school that's got about 2,500 kids that has no buses. They all walk or bike to school, or their parents take them. Are trying to cross these streets because the housing is mostly on the other side there, and then we have trucks that are actually popping the curb here where they might all be grouped and standing together trying to cross the road. So then here we also see that there was no curb or sidewalk connection there. So again, the youth told us that a lot of times, because there would be so many trying to get out at school at the same time, that they would be piled back up into those areas trying to walk across the street to go home. So we found this very interesting. We thought that what we thought would happen was the kids would only look at what was going on in the infrastructure issues, but they pointed out behavior to us, which we found in every one of the pilots. And I think that you guys could probably say that too, that when you've involved them in these processes, that they were pointing out to us people who weren't seatbelted, people who were talking on their phones when yet they were trying to cross the street and be good pedestrians. You see that they noted the jaywalkers walking mid-block. The whole time we were out there, we continually saw people cheating the system and getting over into the island to cross over there. And so in looking at this and working with the teams, we were able to hear them and ask them what they felt could be done to keep them safer on the road. Go to the next slide. So at the Tampa school, we were very excited that the Florida DOT listened to them. They committed $75,000 to fixing a couple of things. One of them included putting lights up so that the youth did not have to walk and cross the street in the dark to go to school, and then also to repaint the roads because the youth had pointed out how the roads were not painted correctly. So that was very successful. Those youth have continued to be involved now and are continuing their efforts. As most of you know, that's Chairman Deborah Hirschman. This was at the Orlando pilot that we did, and she went out there and put her orange vest on, and we looked at the intersections there, and she's been very supportive of this effort. In the Washington, D.C. pilot, what we did was look at the pedestrian walkways around Union Station. If you've been to Washington, D.C. and Union Station, you know that there's tons of construction going on there, but the youth were able to point out the timing of the crosswalks were the same for 2 lanes of traffic as there were 4 lanes of traffic, and there were some issues there that could easily be corrected to help keep pedestrians safer in that area. And then the last pilot that we did was in La Mesa, California, and that school, again, does not have buses. They either walk, bike, or parents take them to school. And we went down and did a pre-site visit the day before, just the adults, to look at what we were looking at. And just in watching the youth as they were dismissed from the school, we had one girl, she was walking past us, and she goes, oh, I have to push the ped button. I almost got hit last week. And she was just talking to her girlfriend, and we asked her, we said, what do you mean by that? And she goes, it's too hard. We can't get all the way across the street before the cars start coming here. And this wasn't even when we had the group of youth there, but this is what these youth were dealing with in their walk to school. So then we went down to the next intersection that we were going to look at, and that intersection was new. It was totally redone. It was beautiful. And so we talked then to the Caltrans person, the California transportation person. They told us that they were able to fix the one intersection with a Safe Routes to School grant. So you guys are doing amazing work, and it's educating these youth about why that was done. The youth didn't know why that intersection was done, why the other one wasn't. So when they found out why, they started a letter writing campaign where they're asking for funds to fix the other intersection too, because so many of them and the middle school shared that intersection to go back and forth home from school. So it was so exciting because this was right before we came to the Safe Routes to School Roundtable, and to hear the youth learn about the success of the work that you're doing and the involvement that they're doing. As you see on their shirts, there's a slogan that our youth created called Turning Adversity into Action, a program called Youth Turn, and this is where we help youth take the opportunity that when a tragedy comes, that they turn that adversity into action. If we go to the next slide, and I'll wrap up. This is the site you can go to. We have a video up there that highlights the Teen RSA program. If you click on the link that says helpful links, you can watch the video. It has Deborah Hirschman talking about that. And we would love to connect with you. If you'll go to the next slide, please. We'd love to connect to you. So if you're in an organization and you're already working with youth, we'd love to hear about what you're doing so we can highlight that and let people know about all the great work that's being done with youth. If you're looking for youth, one of the biggest things that we ask you to do is don't start a new program, but instead work with the groups that are already in the schools. With the academic advancement of our schools, it's very difficult to introduce new programs into schools, so we ask you to successfully work with the groups that are already in there, and we would love to help make those connections for you. So thank you all for the work that you're doing and for this opportunity and for putting up with my slide issues.
Thanks, Sandy. So we have time for just one question. Kim, do you still have just a few minutes? I know it's 2 o'clock already.
Yes, I can stay on the line.
Okay, great.
So I think we have time for one question, and I want to kick it to Kim first, but I think both of you can weigh in on it. The question was, how do you recruit your teenagers? Do you ask for volunteers? Do you post something somewhere? Or do you have adults nominate teenagers that would be a good fit? Kim, how would you? What's been your experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, we do it a lot of different ways, but you know, we usually work with organizations that already have youth groups. So if there's already a green team, for example, at the high school, then or student council, we try to latch into, you know, a group of self-selecting kids. And when it comes to our summer work, especially with Groundswell Mural, they do the recruiting, but it helps that we have the Summer Youth Employment Program stipend, and they do that, you know, through their group. So, I mean, we usually rely on and work very carefully with people who, you know, who already have their recruiting tools, and we are adding the content to lay on top of what they would be doing otherwise.
Oh, great. Sandy, what has been your experience? How do you get teens involved?
I would say that Kim's right on target in finding groups that already have youth instead of trying to start something new. We are always happy to connect when we do this as part of the work of Noise, as we're contacted a lot by groups that are like, I'm trying to do this program, we're looking for youth to get involved, and we connect them to their local SHAD chapter or career and technical student organization. I would tell you that the youth get asked this a lot when they're interviewed. A lot of times people will say, how did you get involved? Why did you get involved? And that's, we present at Lifesavers. It's the #1 question that we get is, how do you find the youth? And the youth say simply, I was asked.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that's one of the biggest things to remember is they're kind of waiting to for somebody to broach them and get involved with this. So as caring adults in their lives, it's really an opportunity to change life. But you can always contact Noise if you're in a particular area and you're looking for groups. We would be more than happy then to connect you with groups that are ready and willing and anxious to work with you in your efforts.
And, you know, while I'm thinking of it, let me put in my plug for after-school programs, seeing as though I'm an after-school advocate. You know, I mean, you know, a program that is working successfully with youth, middle school youth, high school youth, and getting them to come in the building and work after school, like a Boys and Girls Club that has like stringent attendance regulations. I mean, these are always amazing places, and they're looking for ways of the kids to connect more meaningfully to the community. So if you look at, you know, working on the streets and making a safer world as a service learning project, or, you know, a chance for the kids to give back to the community, often you can find after-school programs who want to take on this issue.
Great. These are both great tips. Well, thank you, Kim and Sandy, for taking the time to speak today. I think we got a lot of really great input, and I think this is going to be stuff we can all take back and as food for thought. So thank you so much, and thanks for all of you for attending. Just to let you know, our next webinar is going to be on a Wednesday, not our typical Tuesday, Wednesday, April 17th at 1:00 p.m., and we're going to be talking about connecting children, nature, play, and safe routes to school. So check out your inboxes for an announcement about that coming up soon. Thanks, and have a great day, everyone.